Hello and welcome. Welcome to Everyone's an Expert, place where I'm not an expert and most individuals on the internet aren't. And when we put our minds together, usually we can figure things out. So hopefully together we're an expert. We're going to be talking EVs here as usual. If you're new, welcome. Lots of big news this week. It is National Drive Electric Week. And that's pretty cool. We've already done a couple events. Have another one planned tomorrow afternoon. If we don't have lightning, we'll see. Be a ironic way to have to cancel an electric vehicle event. But hi, John and Aaron. Welcome. Good to have you guys here. John, I hope you're not driving anymore and you've managed to get your score back up. We'll be talking about that stuff a little bit later. Hey, Tim, how's it going? Welcome. I have to apologize right off the bat. I got kind of a wrinkly shirt on. I was wearing a blue shirt all day, and I got this all set up and looked like a floating head. And had to, at the last minute, I need to run up and change that. I looked like a beheaded Smurf. But welcome. Todd, hello. Thanks for joining. Welcome. Very interested to see how your last couple days went. Todd went up to, I was talking about National Drive Electric Week. And Todd went up to an event in Bemidji yesterday and then drove up to Roseau today and did an event there. So really excited for that. I really wanted to go. Couldn't make it happen in the middle of the week. Originally, I thought it was going to be a weekend thing. And I was like, yeah, that's great. I'll just drive up there Friday, Saturday, do the event. And then I looked at the dates and I had conflicts and school things with my daughter, so couldn't make it, but I hope those events were great. And you've got a good place to charge there for the night coming home. Very busy. That's good. I hope that means good busy, lots of interested people. I guess I'll just start with kind of recapping the events we did. Friday night, there was an event up in St. Paul that I don't know if it was put on by a church or like a community group, and it was just kind of in the church parking lot. But it was almost in a kind of a cul-de-sac or a courtyard of the church or like church school combo. Not quite sure what it was, but so it was a little hidden. They did have signs pointing to it, and it was really good. You know, the people that came were very interested, but not a lot of people came. I don't think it was really obvious where it was, but good enthusiastic folks who did show up. And then on Saturday, we went to blanking on the name of it, something Pepin Electric Co-op over in Wisconsin. It was an event in the Minnesota Tesla Owners Group, and lots of people came to the event. I would say about half of the people that came to the event came out to the EV space. It was a little separated from the other stuff, but it was a pretty good turnout for rural Wisconsin. And they had, actually from Lakeville, not too far from me, they had an electric school bus, which was cool. We got to have a ride in that. Handful of Teslas showed up. Yuka brought the Mustang Mach-E. There was another Mach-E there, a few Bolts, Kia. It was a Kona. It was a Hyundai Kona. So good variety of vehicles. Um, Bill Genn, who was right next to me, has this whole setup, like he had a card table and everything, with his Bolt, and he's got like all the different plugs, and he's got like little placards, which was pretty cool. I'll have a video about all these different events, kind of, glommed together as, the week of events. But Bill had this table set up that I'll show some video of in that. Saying how long it would take to charge with this plug in this situation, all, up the line from, your household plug to, level 3 charging. So cool. I don't. It's really interesting at these events the level of information people can handle. Where some people would look at that display and go, "Oh, I know what all those plug types are, and I know exactly how electricity works." And then other people are staring at it, reading each one. Okay, that looks like what's in my house, and that would take 3 days to charge. Well, I don't want to do that, and so you have to kind of explain. But that's good. People were there for education, and there was also a bouncy house, which Joan really liked. Breakfast burritos, which I really enjoyed, and it was a good event. But again, the turnout wasn't super. It was very brisk that morning. I think it was in about the 40s, and took a while for the sun to come out and burn off. But overall, good event and fun. I had a chance to talk to Gail, who started at Tesla a few weeks ago, and she's kind of getting up to speed there and stuff. So cool to see how that's going for her. And so drive electric events are going on all the time. I think there was something today in Minnesota. I'm sure across the country there's stuff on every day, but the things I know about, like I said, I'm doing something tomorrow. Then still trying to sort out my weekend plans, but I'm hopeful I can do something this weekend as well. Just going to check on the chat. Oh, no. So Todd was going to try if he had time to get some B-roll. We talked about that on the phone of the events he was attending, and no time, but I guess that's, like we had talked about on the phone, that's kind of a good thing. If so many people are interested, you don't have time to stop and take some clips. That means that people are really interested. So that's a good sign. 25% of unsafe following. Yeah, right. I'm struggling with my safety score. I guess we can get into that. Tesla finally unveiled the button late Friday, early Saturday morning. I got up and pushed it right away, right as we were running late for that event in Wisconsin. So I thought, oh great, I'm just turning on, monitor my safety as I'm about to race across the country. But I was doing okay. I should see where I am now, but I keep getting dinged for the following distance. And so I was trying a few different things and not having great results. And then I cleaned out my garage. Now, I think I've heard since that it's only at higher speeds that it monitors that. But when I pull into my garage, my wife's bicycle was in front of the car. And so it's always ding, 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 right up to where I stop. And so I thought, well, I'll move that. Maybe that'll help. And it did stop with the dinging. So maybe that's helped the score a little bit, but not real well. Then yesterday, I was driving most of the day, feeling really good about my score. On all the drives, I was being super careful, obnoxiously careful. Had a couple where people, would kind of pull out in front of you and you got to brake hard, but nothing too bad. And then coming home last night at about 10:30 at night, I hit a raccoon well on autopilot. So I was paying attention, had my hands on the wheel and everything, and I start hearing the beeping. I see something's in the road. It's a raccoon. It starts beeping, and I think it was starting to move a little bit on its own when I jerked it out of autopilot, trying to take control and avoid the raccoon if I could, but also like not veer off into the ditch. It's just my habit to take control rather than see what autopilot's going to do when I'm looking at a big repair bill. So I do have the dash cam video. I'll show that here. It's not gruesome or anything, but pretty interesting. Obviously I was focused on what was going on the road. But now when I go back to the video, it seems to kind of swerve right and then left. And I think it was going to go right as you'll see in the video. The raccoon was kind of toward the center of the highway, a 2-lane highway. And so it was kind of to the right, and so I think it was kind of toward the left, so I think the car was going to, swerve around it to the right. But then the raccoon started running to the right, and that's kind of as I took over, then was trying to veer around to the left, slowing down the whole time. And it had started slowing already, even in autopilot, as it was beeping like, hey, something's up here. So it was giving me plenty of warning and everything, but I just wish I had a little more accurate memory of like, okay, at what point did I do what? But at the time you're like, don't hit the raccoon, don't hit the raccoon. It's going to be a huge repair bill. So it did end up hitting it and got to the next town, which was Jordan, Minnesota. Pulled off at a gas station that was pretty well lit and checked it out. And so I'll show you. I'll get to that in a second. So you could see kind of the bumper was, some of the tabs were kind of pulled apart and some of the clips and things, fasteners had popped out. There was a little bit of fur in there. But I think it's mostly cosmetic. And even like if I can get the clips again from service, I still got to put in a service request. But I think if I can get service to just put the clips back in, it should be just fine. I don't think I need to replace anything, unless there's some weird internal part that's so broken that needs to be fixed. But on the face of it, it doesn't seem too bad. So hoping for that. No, I don't think my score really. I feel like the score may have been bad when I got home, and then in the morning it was fine. So I don't know if some of that stuff is reviewed, or maybe I was just kind of discombobulated and didn't pay attention. But I think my score for yesterday was 100, which again surprised me. It made me stutter. So then I went out today. I didn't realize when I had stopped in Jordan that my license plate had flown off. It wasn't until I looked at the dash cam video this morning that the Sentry mode footage that I saw the license plate flew off, and I'm like, oh, I bet that's still laying there. I could probably just go back and get it. So I went back, did that, and I'm like, that'll be good. I'll put on some more safe miles. And then as I was coming home, again, I was trying to let autopilot do its thing, and it got to, kind of where the streets divide a little bit, and I was signaling. It didn't want to take the merge right, and so I, kind of jerked it out of autopilot. And of course that was, fast turning and fast braking, and then like my score went down. I'm like, So this morning I was at a 93. I think by the end of the day today I'm back at a 96. But it's been a journey. And, everybody thinks they drive safe or they wouldn't drive the way they do. But I do have a pretty good record as far as like not being in accidents. But, I'm not afraid to like scoot ahead, do a quick turn or a quick slow down to let someone in or something like that. Where keeping, there's a lot of situations, and I'm sure you all know this, where keeping an even steady speed is not the safest option. And the safest option might give you a bad score, but it's the right thing to do in the moment. And so I think a lot of us are kind of struggling with what that is. But since I told the raccoon story, let's see if I can find that clip. So here it is. Let's see. Like I said, it's not really blood and guts, but I'll kind of talk through this here. So driving along, and bang. And you can see the license plate go flying back. So this is slowed down quite a bit, obviously. You see we kind of veer to the right a little bit, and then I think I pulled it back to the left. And then that's the license plate, and you can see my Quick Bandit bracket flying off into the grass on the left-hand side there. And then this was last night at the gas station, where you can see just kind of the front bumper. There's a little gouge there where the license plate went under. And then just that tab was out, so I kind of stuffed that back out. I think I'm going to talk here in a second. The Quick Bandit plate connector there, flipping around on the side of the road. This chunk was on the right-hand side of the road, kind of just fell to the side. And then this piece you can see in the video got some air and kind of got sucked back behind the car, and then was clearly run over by at least one vehicle, probably shot out into the median. Then this morning, crews were actually mowing the median, and so this may have gotten caught up in part of that too. It was right near the places they had been mowing, so may have been kicked around a little extra from that, but it held together. I found it, and so that's a plus. Then this piece of plastic was nearby the place where I hit the raccoon, and I don't know that it's a part of my car, but I thought I'd grab it just so if the service people are looking for something or wondering where something went, if this is part of my car, then they'll be able to see that. I assumed some of these ribs may have been broken, but it looks like it popped off without damaging anything. So that's good. And then last night I did tuck up some of this plastic back together. You can see it's a little separated still. And there's a little nick there. But all in all, that's pretty cosmetic. I can live with that. As long as as long as the bottom stuff is pretty well, still safe underneath, as long as the structure is safe. I don't think I'd replace that. So we'll see. I'll have service take a look at it and see what they think we should do. So that was that. I can play it again if people want to see it again now that they know what they're looking at. I I felt like kind of a ventriloquist just sitting here waiting while I talked in the video. But I'll catch up. Well, before I click away from this, I'll answer some questions here. Yeah. Todd is living vicariously through me. Actually, Todd's been super helpful, so I appreciate that. Todd ran the car down from 46% to 10%, giving rides today. Wow. I hope you have a reliable place you're going to be charging. Yeah, they're not monitoring speed on the safety monitor, which I actually appreciate because there are some stretches of road in around Minnesota where the speed limit's 60 and everybody's going 75 or 78, and you'll get run over if you go 60. Like I said, I think my score right now is 96. I was babying it the rest of the day, but it's just so frustrating when you try to do your best, and like, I think John said, somebody pulls out in front of you or a raccoon pulls out in front of you, and it's like, you got to do what you got to do. You got to drive safely in the moment, even though it's going to hurt your score. Hey, Roland, good to see you. Welcome. All right, if nobody has any oh, did I try bringing it home for roadkill soup? No, I didn't. I did, after watching the video, like frame by frame. You can, in what I showed, actually see the raccoon careen into the ditch. But obviously I'm not going to show that back and play it for you frame by frame. There's nothing grisly. It just looks like, a blur and then a couple, shapes that you can kind of make out, oh, that must have been what it is. And it's still pretty intact. Yeah, I feel bad, obviously, for killing it. I hate to, that's happened to me a couple times, and you hate to see that. But when I went back there today to get the, I'm going to go back to the main screen here. So when I went back to the site today, dash cam is so good. Like after like a mile later, I was like, oh man, I really want to see that. I'm like, oh wait, I can. And just reached over and, hit the save clip thing. So that was great. And then it was easy to find it today. I did do a little color correction and things, so it's a little easier to see. The contrast is a little better for you guys. But I didn't see the raccoon in the ditch, and I was kind of looking, but I think another animal probably picked it up last night and had some dinner. So, circle of life, not much you can do about it. Even Autopilot did a good job of slowing down as best they could, but, that kind of stuff happens on the highway. I do have PPF, so that's good, and it looked like the main scratch, I will bring that back up one more time. I won't make you guys watch that. Right there. That is the biggest cosmetic mark on the car. And if that's just in, a little dip in fiberglass and on plastic, and there's no structural reason why I need that to get that replaced, I'm not going to have anything done with it. Obviously that tab is out, and there might be a couple other clips that are missing underneath. And then you can see,
I can get,
oh,
as long as the bottom.
can see right by my little head icon shape there to, let's see, right there, there's a line that goes kind of around that edge of the contour of the bumper. That's actually a seam in the PPF, the way they have to do it. So that's not a crack or a mark or anything. So I'm going to make a service request and see if they can just snug that up. And then it should be good as new, I think. So obviously not ideal, but I was expecting to come out to a caved-in bumper. And then when I realized that the Quick Bandit had broken, I thought, well, surely, that's going to have torn out some of that grill, that thin plastic that it attaches to. And yeah, that's all intact. All this stuff all looks just fine. The Quick Bandit did bite it. It's pretty strong and it's 3D printed, and but getting hit by a raccoon is a lot of force and enough to, like I said, pop it out there, and wasn't a great situation, but could have been a lot worse. I just saw a video about last week that there was a video swirling around about the Model Y doing the Moose test, which is basically switching lanes super fast. Well, super fast, doing it at 45, 47 miles an hour. And it, held really well. And then just today, someone was showing like the Mach-E not having that stability. So, probably between autopilot jerking the wheel one way and me jerking the wheel the other way, it could have been bad. In worse conditions, it could have been a lot worse. With a less planted car, it could have been a lot worse. By the time I hit it, we probably weren't going that fast, but, still, going, I think I had the cruise set at 73. So we were probably still going, 40 something, high 30s, low 40s maybe, when the impact happened. So, that was, significant about what that Moose test really was showing. So, I'm really obviously grateful, like I said, that no more cosmetic damage was done. I was alone on the highway at the time, so there wasn't anyone to swerve into, or the license plate didn't flip up and hit anyone. So about as good a situation as you can have in hitting an animal. So, as bad as that is. But anyway, yeah, Tim, way better than hitting a deer. Todd did 17 test drives today. That's good. Awesome. Yeah, hopefully, like I said, hopefully there shouldn't even be... I'm going to have service take a look at it before I even bring it up to insurance, because if it's just a quick service visit, they can pop in a couple of those, connectors or whatever, and it's $100. I'm not gonna, I'm not expecting it to be really that cheap, but you know what I mean. Like if it's manageable, there's no reason to, go through insurance and have that go up on me for something that's pretty minor. At that point, I'd consider just using baling wire and tying it up. Like I said, as long as there's no safety stuff underneath there that, got messed up. But it seems to be running fine. Autopilot and everything is working fine since then. So I do want to get into some other stuff. Sorry, that was a long time on pretty minor animal incident. But I thought, hey, I've got the video. I'll share it, show you what happened. And let's see. Well, I'm showing other videos. Last week I did kind of a semi-snarky like breakdown of some of the luxury items of Mercedes and why it's kind of all in the eye of the beholder. So I did have one other that I wanted to show, and this is the only place I'm going to share this because it's snarky and mean, and I think overall the vehicle is fantastic. It looks beautiful. It's, seems like it's made well. People enjoy it. I don't want this really out in the world, but I wanted to share it with our small group here, just because it's a funny joke that I just want to put out there. But let's see where this is. So this is the Audi E-Tron Sportback, and I think it looks really cool. But man, those weird, 360 cameras in the front of it. I just can't not see the Imperial probe droid. If you guys grew up with Empire Strikes Back, you'll know what this is. It's an old Star Wars reference. But anyway, just wanted to share that. Like I said, I think the vehicle's probably fantastic. It's basically a Porsche Porsche Taycan underneath, just different body styling, and I think it's going to be great. But sometimes people, especially even in the luxury brands, make these choices of design, and this is probably more function than form. I'm guessing maybe even their designers aren't crazy about it, but it just really stood out to me. Which is why a lot of people have said, and I say too, that the vehicle looks best in white or black, or like a really dark gray, because that some of that weird black plasticky stuff isn't quite so obnoxious. But John, I did see the Sandy review of the Kona, which I thought it was interesting. He's like, why would anybody buy a Nero if you can get the Kona? I think they're both good cars. I was surprised when I've seen a Kia and the Hyundai at the Drive Electric events that the frunk is a lot of wasted space. They give everything plenty of room, and you open it up and it looks like an engine, and it's unnecessary. But not everybody uses their frunk, and I think the Kona and the Nero are both seem to be super efficient, and I think they charge pretty fast. If I'm not 100% I'm remembering that correctly, but I thought they did all right on charging. Maybe it's just the efficiency of them, but they're a little smaller than the Model Y, and not going to work for everybody. But the people I talked to at the events who had them just absolutely love them. And one person I was talking to was saying how she liked the Tesla, but the Kia or the Hyundai still got the $7,500 tax credit. So that's not something a lot of people want to leave on the table. So if that car works for you, then it's a great option. Speaking of other great options, I got a chance to test drive the Mustang Mach-E. Like I said, at the different EV events this weekend, Yuka had the Mach-E that actually belongs up with Todd. It's from the Rosso Ford. I don't have his. I don't have that handy. I think it's Paul from Rosso County Ford had loaned the vehicle to Yuka to take to different events. And then because it was down there supposed to be, getting views and experiences, Yuka let me take it for quite a bit on Sunday. And I was able to drive around, tried charging at Electrify America. That was a little bit of a challenge, some of which was user error. Some of it was, charging station frustrations. There will be a video about that. I'm going to see if I can interview Paul from Rosso County Ford. He was instrumental in pushing for the Minnesota Clean Cars rule. And he is, I can't remember his exact title, but basically he's one of the regional dealership managers. So when dealers get together, they all kind of funnel stuff to him, and then he takes it to Ford, or so he represents a lot of Ford dealers. And the fact that he's pushing for electric really is impressive, because if you know where Rosso is, it's almost on the Canadian border. There isn't a major city. I guess Winnipeg or Bemidji would be the biggest cities nearby. Maybe Grand Forks. Maybe if you kind of drew a line between all of those, Rosso would kind of be in the middle. So, it's really cool that he's pushing it there, and like Todd is experiencing places where there isn't much CCS, especially infrastructure. They're still interested in EVs. So that's pretty fantastic. My quick review, it'll be a little more nuanced in the video, and I'm going to try to get another special guest or two to join in on that video. My initial impression was it's really good if you're, and I think Ellie said this too, if you're coming from a gas car, a gas Ford for sure, this is going to feel very familiar with enough quirky stuff to make you feel pretty futuristic, but not so extreme as to just have one screen like the Tesla. Like I said, I had some issues charging it, that some of which was user error, but I feel like if you had just driven this off the lot and were taking it home and had that experience, it took me about 20 minutes to get the first charge initialized. And if that was my first experience with an EV, I would really be thinking I might need to drive this back. I guess, when you're a new owner, you're excited and you're ready to try something. But I could just feel like if I had bought this and this was my first experience, I would have a major pit in my stomach about, was I doing the right thing? Like I said, some of that was definitely user error, and I'll point that out in my video. But that's my concern is, you can set up plug and charge, but because I was borrowing it, I also didn't have the app or plug and charge set up. That would make it easier. So if a dealer helped you get that stuff set up beforehand, before you left, when you take your delivery, if they can say, okay, here's the app, here's the Electrify America app, get your thing set up, get plug and charge set up. So when you go there, all you have to do is plug it in and it'll work. that would have been a much different and better experience, I'm pretty sure. So like I said, some of that was because I was borrowing it. Some of it was I was new to the vehicle. Um, I I wouldn't trade the Model Y for it at all. I think it looks really good in person. Some of the screen stuff, software stuff, I feel like could be improved, and user interface stuff could be improved. Just some things about it are kind of distracting. Um, Again, I want to talk to people who've owned one for a while when I put out my review, so I can get a sense of the, like getting used to the Tesla screen. It takes about a week for me, and so I'd like to talk to long-term owners. Like, to me, this stuff was really distracting. Is it distracting to you once you've owned it for a while? Or what would you like to see improved about it? I wasn't surprised at all about that moose test thing we were talking about earlier, because I noticed as I was kind of going through some of the turns, it felt good, it felt planted, but not as tight as the Model Y. And I don't have a performance Y, but it didn't feel quite. It felt like there was a little more float to it, where like it's doing all the things the Model Y would do, but it's just maybe the upper part of the body is heavier or something, but it just kind of felt a little, like as you're going on an on-ramp and you're coming around the curve to, slingshot onto this interstate, and, just felt like, we're not going over. It's not dangerous, but it's not as tight as I'd like. I do think, like I said, coming from a gas Ford or a gas vehicle, you'd probably feel relatively at home and pretty impressed with all that. So I think Ellie's reaction was, if I didn't already know about EVs, I would be amazed, which is pretty good. That's a lot of people are going to fall into that category, and like the styling and like the company Ford better than Tesla or Hyundai or Kia or whatever. So it's good. It's a really good option. Charging was the big. Charging and software needs work, but software can be fixed. Charging networks can be improved. So overall, it was a positive experience. I don't want to say too much more about that, but that video should be pretty cool. I do test out Blue Cruise. It did pretty well. It did handle corners for me. Again, there was more float to it than autopilot. That's the word that just kept coming back to me as I was testing different things. It's like, I feel like, autopilot, when it's working well, really locks you in. And like, I'm dead center in the lane, and it's confident, and I'm confident that it's confident. This felt a little more like, we're floating around a little bit, and we're probably going to do it, but you better be ready to, you better be on it. And although I thought it was supposed to be hands-free, it did say keep your hands on the wheel. I was able to take them away for a few seconds here and there, but I would get the put your hands on the wheel, like a little icon came up, but not a lot of audible sounds about when you're going into it or coming out of it. And other people have talked about that too, that's it's a little alarming that it's not alarming you, that it's in and out. But there again, that system can improve, and a lot of people are going to be really happy with the car. So although I wouldn't buy it, I definitely wouldn't turn someone away who wanted to buy it. That's my take anyway. Canada would be closer. That makes sense, yeah. The only good thing about the Mach-E is the 7,500. Well, yeah, you do still get the tax credit with that. And we'll see if Congress and the Senate can get their butts in order and actually do an infrastructure deal and improve something and pass it, which they just hopefully they can get out of their own way and actually achieve something. And I think there's a lot of stuff that could have a really big impact. They just need to have the courage to do it and let everybody take a little risk and go big and get us some, put us on the path to actually competing in the world on infrastructure and, things we're falling behind on. I don't want to get political here, but hopefully there will be either the same credit extended to other manufacturers or it will grow. Hopefully there will be something. And hopefully it's something significant to help a lot of people change. So I guess going from that, I had a really good list of things I wanted to talk about, and then the last couple days a bunch of stuff came out, and I'm like, oh, that should go to the top of the list. Oh, this came out, now that should go to the top of the list. I guess staying with Ford, they just made an $11 billion announcement, $11.4 million, I think it is, investment in, I think, Tennessee and Kentucky, where they're going to be doing battery facilities and EV manufacturing plants, I believe, which is great. It seems like the stuff we've heard from them before, but I think what the Mach-E is proving, and the interest in the Lightning is proving, is that they underestimated when people would be ready to switch to electric and what the demand would be. And I think plans that they had for 2030, they're now moving up to 2025, because I think these plants are going to start construction in 2025, which in Tesla world, that's like, why are you even saying anything at this point? That's not even worth talking about. Like, start digging now. Like, you should be surveying and everything in the next couple months, and then come spring start digging. I understand not all companies work like that, but I do get the feeling that in the past they've paid a lot of lip service to things like that, and now they're saying there's demand and people are excited about these products and want them made in the U.S. and not Mexico, and less manufacturing in China. And like I said, I think these were probably originally plans that they said, oh yeah, we'll have it in 2025, and in the back room they're going, yeah, that sounds really good, and we'll actually do it in 2030 or 2035 if anybody even wants EVs. And now I think they're to the point where, like, oh, we got to get moving on this, and probably the fastest we think we can do it is 2025. Like I said, I wish they'd kind of light a fire under themselves and do it faster. But it's a big announcement from a big company, going to potentially bring a lot of jobs to those areas. So that's good. So, yeah, all good there. It sounds like GM might be restarting their production on bolts. I just want to ask, for those of you watching right now, I was kind of struggling with this week, and I still kind of am. I like the amount of bolt fires is so small. I know I just jumped from Ford to GM. Sorry about that, but the amount of bolt fires is so small. But obviously, still, it's a big enough risk that they're doing recalls and fires, continue to happen, or had continued to happen up to a couple weeks ago. And this is National Drive Electric Week. We want to get everybody butts in seats, and at both of the events I was at, there were a handful of bolts. And on one hand, it's a very good electric car. A lot of people love them. That's why they were there. That's why the owners are excited to share it. On the other hand, there's a part of me that's not worried that something's going to happen necessarily. More worried that we're doing EV events and sometimes letting people, drive them. And sometimes letting them drive the Bolt. And if something were to happen at an EV event, showcasing how great and safe and, ready for prime time these are, if something were to happen at one of these events, and, obviously if someone were to get hurt, it would be tragic. If someone gets hurt anywhere in something like this, it would be tragic. But the press and the focus and the attention it would bring, part of me says, is it worth the risk? And I don't know the right answer to that. Obviously, the people who brought them and, continue to bring them to events don't feel like there's a big enough risk to be concerned about it. And they live with it day to day. So, they have a much better handle on this than I do. But not that I wouldn't, in fact I did. I'm happy to park next to bolts. I'm not worried about it on an individual level. But with all these events happening for National Drive Electric Week, and a lot of people bringing bolts because it is a popular car, there is that kind of nagging worry in the back of my head of like, man, this has to go well, kind of with all the vehicles there. The same thing would, happen if, Tesla had wompy wheels, or Mustang's doing a recall for, some roof adhesion problems, potentially. If something happened at any one of these events, it's going to cause a lot more focus than it would normally. So, how do you guys feel about that? I'd be interested to see how other people feel about that. I know the risk is small, but especially when they were giving rides like, hey, test drive an EV, and the one we're going to have you test drive is under a pretty major recall right now. And, I'm assuming they didn't talk about that on the test drive. And how, what are the ethics of that? I'm not sure. But interested to hear other people's opinions on that, either in the chat or in the comments afterward. I'd love to hear that. Like I said, chances are nothing's going to happen, especially if people are being, pretty... you would think the people that are showing these vehicles are following the procedures as described by GM. But you never know. So I also wanted to talk about Rivian, who's made a pretty big splash this week. I think yesterday morning the embargo was broken on, or lifted, on the Rivian test drive event that they, pretty much any channel with a big following was there. Transport Evolved was there, 2-Bit Da Vinci, Ben Sullins was there, Kyle Connor was there, and probably a lot of others. I think Motor Trend was there again, but they already had their kind of cross-country series that they've released a couple episodes of and their whole article on. And they were really impressed with that adventure, and it seems like everybody came away very impressed from the press days. It sounds like it was a couple days where they went up into the mountains across, through this, crazy rock climbing, big rutted roads up to this mountaintop. A few people got sick from the altitude, but, just big adventuring in Colorado. Very cool, neat footage. And then I think they drove back to Denver so people could drive them on the regular roads. And the big takeaway is everybody's like, man, it blows our expectations out of the water. These things are great. People are going to love them. So really good response there. The little bit of hesitation I have, and I'm very, very pro Rivian. I think they're going to do great. With all of the sometimes literal, breathless enthusiasm, I do have a little hesitancy to take it back in that, this was a Rivian event planned by them, although they went up trails and things. They had scouted it and were sure the vehicles could handle all of these places. In some of the more gnarly places, they had, spotters to make sure people wouldn't puncture tires and stuff. And I obviously don't have a problem with that. But, it's not like they said, go out and find rando trails and do whatever you want. They were in a convoy going up these trails, and they looked very challenging. I'm not going to, more than 98% of users will ever do in those trucks. And they handled it really well. So I think one team had to have a tire changed or something, and they were, they had Rivian techs there and everybody, so they were able to do it quickly. But the overall thing looked fantastic. Everybody was like, these trucks are amazing. People are going to love them. I may have heard a comment or two about the UI still needing a little bit of love, but most people seem pretty happy with it. Nice camera right in the nose so you could see what you were bouldering over. That was something I really liked in the Mach-E too, is that as you were coming up to things, that camera would flip on and come up on the screen, and you'd be able to see that, like, oh, I'm right there over, the curb or whatever. So, it looks like they're going to be great trucks. They just got to get delivering, ramp up deliveries. So hopefully they can do that soon. And then let me check comments for a second here. Yeah, John, that's kind of the big questions about it. The risk is very small, but still, when something's got a big recall, taking it out and, again, I don't know what was said in test drives and things, but, yeah, taking it out and like, this is still awesome. And it is still awesome. They just need to solve this fairly major issue. You know, it's a good car for a lot of people. So then today was kind of Lucid's day, where I think the Lucid event was last night, or again, the embargo lifted from their events. Where people, again, were very impressed. I watched the kilowatts video. Maybe that's where I saw Ricky. Maybe he wasn't at the Rivian one. I know Dan from What's Inside, Zach from Jury Rig Everything, and Ben Sullins were at the Rivian one. Maybe I'm putting Ricky in the wrong place. Maybe Ricky was at the... I know he was at the Lucid thing because he and Kyle Connor had a good back and forth about the paint shop. Obviously, check these people's videos out, if you're interested in more of these, because I don't go to events like this, so, I'm just kind of on the outside looking like everyone else is, but I do watch a lot of them. It seems like people are really impressed with the Lucid. Seems like the range is going to be fantastic. Again, it's that luxury thing of, is it worth the money? It all depends on what you value. If you like 2 seam stitches instead of 3, or, whatever. I think Ricky was really in love with the executive back seats in the Lucid. And, he was kind of talking about how they achieved that. But part of what I've seen, people criticize the Lucid for is the trunk is pretty tiny. So they gave you big back seats, and the trunk is kind of like the Model 3 trunk, where it kind of opens, and like in the rain, you would think it would all just, rain or snow, it would all just slide into the trunk. I don't know if Tesla's fixed that on the newer 3s. I thought they did. They added something that made that not happen as much, but that was something someone had noticed about the Lucid trunk. And it's not my style. I'm not crazy about the style of the Lucid, but I think if they can, if they can sell a 500-mile EV and, get people to pay for it and, not buy a gas car or something, then that's all fantastic. So, again, I hope they can ramp up their production and get things moving. Interesting thing happened at one of the events I was at. One of the events I was at this weekend, we were talking about the Model Y and, kind of about the price and things like that and features. And somebody who didn't seem to know too much about the vehicle brought up the fact that, well, don't you think it's weird that the seats are just up on risers? And I thought, of all the things to know about the Model Y, that's something you know? Like, yeah, for like a, more luxurious priced vehicle, that the seats are up on risers. And it just took me by so much surprise, because we were talking about like relatively practical things and then this. And, I to some degree, I didn't know how to answer it. I kind of said that, well, I guess until someone pointed out that these were just the Model 3 seats on risers, I had never considered how other vehicle, like SUV, crossover seats are. I know this isn't the same, class of vehicle, but I had an Isuzu Trooper, And under those seats were, 2 pillars and storage. I don't know, like, what else, what other magical things are supposed to be under there? So I don't know if it just makes it more luxurious if you put a piece of plastic or a piece of carpet across that front so it doesn't seem like it. I'm not, maybe I need to look at more SUVs. But I just thought that, like, I did point out that you never look at that. If you have it in your garage, you walk up, you open the door, you sit down. You never see that unless you're cleaning out the car. So, an odd thing to be. It's always interesting to see what people are fixated on as far as what's luxurious or what's important to them. But that's why we need other EV companies and other traditional automakers to make EVs. So the people that want a non-pedestaled seat can have that. Yeah, most of them have a metal frame under them, but it's not really doing anything other than holding the seat up higher, which is exactly what the Tesla seats are doing. So I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I'm not an expert. But just interesting, like I said. So going back to, kind of got into the button issue earlier. And kind of got into the button issue and the safety score earlier. And it's really interesting to see the different media takes on it. And, on one hand, Tesla's rolling this out to, people were saying like untrained drivers, and it's dangerous and it's a menace. And on the other hand, people, then they say, okay, well, you have to get a safety score, a good safety score before we'll roll this out to you. How dare Tesla, judge their, people who have already paid for this feature? It's like, well, what do you want? You wanted Tesla to use, it's not safe enough because they're not using the interior camera. They say, okay, we'll use the interior camera. Well, now it's unsafe because of this, or now it's unsafe or unfair. The the thing that, although the safety score thing is frustrating, as someone who's hit a raccoon this week, it's a good play for them. Obviously, it gets them insurance data, but it's a good way for them to say, look, we're rolling it out to the safest drivers first. And this is how we quantify safe drivers. And, so it takes some of the pressure off the rollout. I think a lot of the people who are wringing their hands about, they're judging people who have already paid for this feature, what they really wanted is Tesla to just roll it out, and then they could join the chorus of, it's unsafe, these people are untrained, and nobody knows what they're doing. And it's like, well, they're rolling it out to licensed drivers, so, and they say be attentive. You have to be a licensed driver, so I don't know, if licensed drivers need more training, then that's not, obviously there's getting used to the system. So I'm being a little glib, but, realistically, if you know what the rules are of the road and autopilot's not doing what it should, you take it out of autopilot. Like I said on my drive today, I was trying to get it to do something, it didn't do it, I had to correct it. And It hurt my safety score, but it was the right thing to do. So, I think, they're trying to mitigate as many risks as they can, because in order for it to be successful, they do have to roll it out as safely as possible and have data and a track record of, we did the best we could. But also a lot of people, I think it's Senator Blumenthal had a tweet about it, like it's, these untested or untrained people just letting it out into the wild and putting everyone at risk. These people are starting with the supposition that driving is safe already, and we all know it's not. And they're just assuming, well, no one's getting hurt now, so if someone gets hurt, it's because of this system. That this system introduces risk more than already exists. And that doesn't seem to be the case. The kind of the prime directive for the system is don't crash. But also, like I was saying, the Mach-E doesn't give you the warnings. When I was coming up after that raccoon, there was a lot of noise in the cabin going, "Hey, something's happening here. We got a situation." There was no surprise that, I was coming up on something. So, I think, a lot of people don't want it to be successful for a lot of reasons. But I do think well-meaning people need to experience it, more than just maybe one drive where like, ooh, it's scary, because it is a little scary at first, like if you're not centered in your lane and you put it on autopilot and it bumps you over, like, no, we're going here. That's jarring at first. But anybody opting into the beta knows that already. They are, people who have probably been testing it on their own. I know I try it out in all sorts of situations just to see how it'll perform, and I'm not even in the beta program. So untrained is an easy but pretty lazy, take on this. Now, do people make mistakes in driving? Yes, I make mistakes in driving. We're all human, but I'm also trained, and other than rodent collisions, haven't had a major accident in, major accident? I don't think I've ever had a major accident. Had to knock on wood there for a second. But, I've hit a beaver, a raccoon, and that's about it. I spun out once in the snow, but was able to drive out of the ditch. So, and I've been driving since 91 or 92, I can't remember, but a while. So, like I said, I think to some degree that's kind of lazy. And when we look at it that way, we don't look at, the potential good that it's having when it doesn't make a mistake. I think Elon, in that recent interview he did, said something to the effect of, the 10% of people who, I'm not sure if this is a direct quote because it doesn't make a ton of sense, but he's like, the 10% of people who are going to die because of accidents with autopilot are going to still sue you. But the 90% of people whose lives were saved because of it will never know. And my brother and I, I think it was March of 2000, were in a motorcycle accident. And I was going to pull some video footage of that too, to really show you something fun. Obviously, we don't have footage of the crash, but an older gentleman, we were on a 2-lane highway. My brother picked me up from work on his motorcycle, didn't bring helmets. It was March 3rd, 2000, and the weather was very, like, unseasonably warm, like 70 degrees or something. So snow was melting all over the place. Roads were pretty clear, but there was still some sand on them and stuff. And as we were driving into town, probably going 50 miles an hour or so, a guy crossed our lane in front of us, and we hit right, the front wheel of the motorcycle hit the right behind the front wheel of the sedan the guy was driving. That accident wouldn't have happened on autopilot. It wouldn't have let the person turn. Again, systems can have flaws, but in generally, like, it's designed where it would have recognized when the older man didn't recognize that there was a vehicle coming, it would have stopped and waited. And, I think back, my brother and I survived. I didn't have too many, I kind of went up and over the car and thankfully didn't land on my head. I landed on my butt and, cracked my tailbone pretty good. But my brother, kind of hit the A-pillar with his head and flipped over the car and had a pretty major brain injury and massive, shattered wrist, shattered leg, and easily could have died there on the road. In fact, as I was laying there, I assumed he was dead because people don't survive motorcycle accidents, especially not when they're not wearing helmets. And it was really close. And that's the kind of thing that, had autopilot existed at that time, we would have continued on our way. His vehicle would have waited for us. We would have passed. He would have gone to the hardware store. And, my brother wouldn't have spent the next month in the hospital. And then the better part of the rest of the year, relearning, like, walking and speech stuff and all sorts of stuff. I could still sit comfortably, which is really the most important thing. But and there's a chain reaction event to all those things like that too, where obviously it impacted our family quite a bit. 4 years, and to some degree still kind of colors things into the future. But as we were coming home from work, so were good friends, people we knew, coming off of their shift as well. It was after 5 o'clock, everybody's going home, and it was really tough for some of them to see that. And they were scarred for a while to, witness something like that. I know I've seen a handful of accidents, been present in the aftermath of a couple, and it's sobering and really sticks with you. And especially something so severe. And, the assumption that everything's fine now and we shouldn't try to fix it is really naive. And it's one of those things that until it happens to you, maybe you don't think it's a big deal. Or you hear about it happening to someone you might know or their relative, and you think, oh, how tragic. Yeah, it's too bad that stuff has to happen. And a lot of it probably won't have to happen in the future. And then you think back of all those chain reaction outcomes of, lost productivity until, if nothing else, like until my brother was able to work again. Um, all the rehab expenses and, um, you know, functionality of, his limbs that were shattered. And, there's so much, there's so many downstream effects that it's a worthwhile system that's worth moving forward on aggressively but safely. Um, and that's my pitch. um, so I get a little frustrated when I see like the senators, tweet of, like, how dare they introduce this, this unsafe thing to untrained drivers. And it's like, well, it's not great now. And really, safety systems aren't too much better. That situation, I can't think of a driver assist feature other than full self-driving that could have stopped that accident from happening. At least that's capable to be rolled out to a massive amount of vehicles. I'd be happy to be incorrect in that, and maybe there are more, but today GM just announced that due to the chip shortage, I guess we have to take them at their word, but due to the chip shortage, they're not going to be pursuing Super Cruise, I think, for the next year or maybe 2 years. And meanwhile, they've got Cadillac ads playing on YouTube all the time about, this gal who, like, she's customizing her day in her, amazing Cadillac, and, like, it was sunny out as she drove down the coast. No, it was stormy, and she drove hands-free along the highway. And, like, oh, is that a thing she can do? No, apparently not. And it's okay for other companies to say things like that, but not Tesla. So, anyway, didn't mean to turn this into a depressing, like, this really grinds my gears episode, but kind of went there. It just occurred to me that this week, as, we're all talking safety and autopilot and the button and things. I'll catch up on the chat now. As a Wyler, I agree. Hi, Tom. As a Wyler, I agree. No, never thought about the risers, but I find the seats comfortable. Yeah, enough. Yeah, if it felt like the seats weren't like, if it felt like they should have added another like 2 or 3 inches under the seat for padding, I'd probably feel differently, but I don't feel that way. Yeah, I'm surprised excessive speeding isn't in the safe driver score. I touched on this a little bit earlier. I'm not sure if you're here yet, but I think it would be tough to determine what's excessive speeding in different situations. Around the Twin Cities, there's loop of like interstate, some of which is 60 miles an hour. But although some people in the slow lane drive 55 in that, or 60, most traffic is 70 plus, sometimes up near 78 in the faster lanes. And if everyone driving a Tesla was limited to, maybe there is an upper limit, or should be an upper limit of 7 over, 8 over. Still on some of those roads, though, you'd kind of be a hazard. And again, like, sometimes you need to swerve. Sometimes you need to gun it and get ahead of someone or away from someone. Um, so maybe it should be measured in, like, if you don't have a burst that's longer than this, over this amount. Um, but I've also still found places where the speed limit, like, sign is wrong, where I'm passing a sign that says 65 and it doesn't change from 55 in the car. And so the car's like, all right, we're still going 60, 5 over. And I've got, semis roaring up behind me. And I'm like, nope, out of autopilot, we're going. Um, so I think it's more about that than not necessarily we don't want you to speed, but I think they're trying to catch speeders with the fast braking metric. If you're using excessive speed, you'll probably have to quick brake more because things can come out in front of you faster. So I think that's the angle they're trying to take it. John's been driving since 1980. Tom since 1987. Yeah, you guys have a handful of years on me, and yeah, I feel like I have a pretty good handle on what I'm watching for on the road, and also now using autopilot and navigate on autopilot for the last while. I have a pretty good sense of what it does well and what it doesn't do well, when to be more cautious with it. And yeah, I think it's a little, it can get a little insulting. I mean, obviously there are plenty of bad drivers out there, and like I said, I've done dumb things where I'm looking at a map, or miss a turn, like I'm not completely aware of everything around me on every trip. Seems to happen when my brother's in the car a lot, because he'll always point it out. Uh, it's kind of like when you're when your boss walks in, that's when you can't function at your job. Um, so if I'm riding with my brother, who's also a huge road tripper, that's when I'm going to make the dumb driving mistakes, just so there's someone there to point it out to me. Yeah, John, the 100 miles an hour thing, there has been some suggestions from people of, can you set it maybe geolocated to, like, I'm at a track, turn the safety stuff off. Um, and maybe they would do that, but then maybe people would just turn it off when they want to drive like crazy. I don't know. Like I said, maybe you'd have to geolocate that or something. Um, yeah, people have brought that up. Yeah, 494 and 694 is. Yeah, if you've driven it, you know that it's rarely anywhere near the speed limit. And when someone does go, like I said, if you get somebody, going 55 in that 60 mile an hour right lane, it just bogs the whole thing up and is more likely to cause an accident. Uh, yeah, 30 mile an hour, and you're going 60. Yeah, that's Um, I thought when Vision rolled out, they were gonna take more like the visual cues from the speed limit signs into account. But I've also been in the situation where, um, and again, maybe FSD beta solves this, and so it's just like we're not going to improve the old stuff until everybody's rolled over to that. But um, I've been in situations within, I think, the last month where I was driving on the highway and there was an off ramp and stoplights. And I would get the like stopping for traffic control, like slowing for traffic control and stopping for, and like, no, 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 that's them. We're going straight. Yeah, so there's going to be bugs. It's going to take a while. But I am excited to hopefully, get to help train it and make it better for everyone. Hopefully, you know, save some people who don't know they've been saved. It's kind of the best thing I can think of for it. So the other thing that seemed really pressing to talk about when I was like writing things down for the show was the new mega factory in Lathrop, California. I don't know if it was maybe the Inside EVs podcast on Friday mornings. They were talking about this. Like, why would they put it in California? Why would they, not put it near the Gigafactory in Nevada or in Texas near the other stuff? So the new mega factory in Lathrop is going to be making mostly battery storage stuff. And so I had a few thoughts on that. And California is obviously nearer the coast. And if most of energy storage products are going to be LFP battery chemistry coming from China, it would make sense that they'd be closer to the port. Also, there seems to be a lot of Megapack orders in California. So that could be a reason of, well, we'll keep it close to the port, but then also if half of our business is going to be here, let's just build them here. That seemed to make sense to me. I think it is cool that they're like building a dedicated spot for battery storage, because that is going to be a huge need, and they're way behind on Powerwall production. And although some of that might be is Powerwall built in New York? It might be in the Buffalo factory. I'm not sure. But regardless, they need to get cooking on some of that stuff, and it would be great. It sounds right now like all LFP batteries are coming out of China, which is unfortunate. And it would be really cool if more of that was being produced in the U.S. Maybe that's something they'll kind of gravitate toward in the future, or look for a partner here. I know, I've talked about mining in the boundary waters here in Minnesota, and concern about digging up certain metals, but we do have pretty robust iron ore mining that goes on, and I don't know what the supplies are like, but I know the mines are big, and they're still shipping it out all over the place. They're probably shipping it to China to then come back here as LFP batteries. So, I think any mining near major watersheds like Lake Superior, like the Boundary Waters, like a lot of the northern lakes, needs to be done very carefully and planned judiciously and maybe not done at all in certain cases, depending on what it is. But there is already a pretty robust iron ore, you know, mining and shipping system they've got going out there, up there. So if they could leverage that in an environmentally clean way, that could be a good boon for Minnesota, better than that stupid pipeline commercial that keeps coming on, where Line 3 has been so great for our community. The workers are so friendly, and I know I've talked about this already, but the whole thing is like you just had an infrastructure project here. Like it wasn't because of what they were building that made it great for your community. It was great for your community because a bunch of out of town, maybe out of state construction people showed up and basically lived out of your town and spent a lot of money in your town for a couple months. And then they're going to go away. And when they go away, you don't have a new bridge. You don't have new solar install. You don't have new, wind or battery storage capacity. You have an oil pipeline, which I don't know all the details on. Maybe we do need it. I'm not going to get into that part of it. But, once all those people and their dollars leave your town, you're left with something that can leak into your river and ruin your favorite fishing spots, or, ruin farmland, or catch fire, or, it's easy to say the short-term dollars make it all worth it, but that's a really, really short-sighted view of things. So, stuff like that grinds my gears. So, I've been on kind of a tear about stuff today. So, sorry about that. But anyway, it is a little after 11 o'clock Central Time. I've gone through, I think, all of my notes. We talked ad nauseum about the raccoon. Good luck to Rivian. Very excited. There have been some talk about, like, it's, is it going to be a real work truck? The people who buy the truck will decide whether it's a work truck or not by how they use it. I have a lot of trucks on my block that don't park in garages. Like, people are worried about the Cybertruck. Like, it's not going to fit in my garage. No one on my block parks their truck in their garage. And some of these trucks are the most pristine vehicles you will ever see. They've never really gotten that dirty. So, if someone, does their business out of the back of a Rivian and uses it for work and gets it dirty and dinged and, uses it for work, it's a work truck. If someone takes a full-size Dodge Ram and parks it in their driveway and drive it to and from work, technically it's a work truck, but is it really a work truck? It's, like I said, it's got a conventional enough design that it's going to appeal to a lot of people, and people are going to put it through its paces in whatever capacity, whether that's mountain climbing on pre-approved, trails, or if it's just going back and forth to work, going to the beach or something, like they have in their promo videos, or, running a plumbing business or something out of it. Who knows? The buyers will decide whether or not it's a work truck. I don't think journalists really they don't have any say other than the way they market it. So we'll see. But yeah, from October 15th to August 15th, vehicles may not be parked on the street from 2 a.m. Oh, wow. That's, I think my in-laws have that in there. They're in Lino Lakes. And I think they have something like that too, where you can't park on city streets overnight. I always found that a little draconian. Like, I get like weather emergencies, but like day to day, it's weird. Anyway, that's not really EV specific, but I think, like I said, that's all I have for tonight. So thank you for joining. I'll give you a little heads up about what's coming next. I've got part 2 of the Supercharger Roundup, which I'm sure everybody's sick to death of seeing this because I show it every week, but this should be the last time I show it. But the Supercharger Roundup, going around Minnesota, hitting all the perimeter superchargers. And so the second part of that, starting in Fargo, meeting some really nice people there. And I take a look at a 7-seat Model Y, which I'd never seen in person. Visited Grand Forks, which was new to me. Bemidji, which was new to me. And then I also kind of got lost in northern Minnesota, which was stupid. I'll just leave it at that. I thought I was going to have like something really cool to show, and it was like, this is just dumb, and there's not anything worth showing. But that'll all be in that video. Then I met up with Tim and Tim's friend, I think John, I want to say, and Tony met me at Carlton, and then we convoyed down to Hinckley, and then kind of all split up, going our separate ways. I stopped at the Minneapolis Supercharger just to end the Supercharger route, but it was a good time. So that's the second part of that video. Had I put it all together, it would have been well over an hour long. And I thought nobody's going to sit through this, so I had to split it into 2. But did split that up, and so that'll be next week. Then probably the following week will be, I think that'll be the Mach-E recap, depending on how some interview things go. If I can line up a couple interviews, that might be the following week. It'll either be Mach-E or Drive Electric Week events and kind of a recap of that. So we'll see. But next week is the wrap on Supercharger Roundup. And then maybe on the next thing I won't pick a Western theme. I don't know. I gotta get more creative with my theming of road trips. But so a lot of cool stuff coming. I do want to check out a couple other vehicles. I've got kind of waiting in the wings to pull the trigger on like taking the time to go and review them until I can wrap up my thoughts with the Mach-E and potential interviews there, and the Drive Electric Week stuff. So a lot of cool stuff coming. Thank you very much for joining. Just going to check the last couple comments here. Where did I buy that ridiculous hat? It's my adventure hat, John. I'm so offended. I got that in Arizona, maybe? I can't remember. I either got that one in Arizona or I got a similar one in Arizona in like Flagstaff before I went to the Grand Canyon years and years ago. But I think I lost that one and then I bought a similar one maybe up north in Minnesota. I'm not sure. It does look kind of stupid, but it's really good at keeping the sun out of my eyes and off my neck, and when it rains, giving pretty good shelter so I'm not wiping my glasses off, and again, rain's not going down my neck. So it's ridiculous. I know that, but I thought it was fun. I was going with a Western theme. Thought I'd just keep rolling with it. I actually wore it a lot this summer to the beach because I have this thing where probably everybody has this, but I hate being splashed in the face. And when I take my daughter to the lake, she loves to splash and it all goes in my face. And it was, obviously quite sunny this summer, so I was wearing it for the sun. But then I realized, like, as she's about to splash, if I just duck my head, it hits and rolls off the bill. And so I looked like a complete tool of a dad out playing with my daughter in the lake. But you get to a certain point, and it's like, hey, this thing's functional, and I don't give a crap what I look like. Yeah, I guess that's dad cred when you stop caring about that. Yeah, anyway, so that's the story on the hat. I'm beyond caring if I look stupid. I'm glad you're enjoying how cheesy it is. I meant to say it all the time, and then I had to remind myself at the later stops, like, say the supercharger roundup, because I wanted to have that kind of hawk screech of like the sound of desolation. Yeah, the route was fun. It does get a little pretty much straight from Sioux Falls all the way to Grand Forks and even almost all the way to Bemidji. The terrain is pretty similar, and it's not that different from southern Minnesota. So when I got to trees, I was very ready to start seeing trees. Got lost and found a nudist camp. That would have been way more entertaining. It was just cattle and a quarry. But, yeah. Anyway, and on that note, I don't even have the hat in the house. I was going to grab the hat and throw it on for a sign off, but look for, like I said, that video on Sunday, and then probably another live stream next week, and we'll see where we go from there. Lots of cool stuff coming up. Tesla end of quarter, so we should by next week know what their final deliveries were, production and deliveries for Q3. I follow that stuff, but I'm not an analyst or anything. But obviously we want more EVs. We got to see strong numbers there. So hopefully that we'll have some good news. Rob Maurer, I think, believes that should come out on Saturday. So plenty of time to hear about it and reactions by next Wednesday. But with that, I will go to the right place. Oh, hey, that's new. I had too many clips to show today. My interface got screwed up. But With that last bit of awkwardness, have a great night. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.